Good morning, everyone. I do echo this thought. I met some of you who are lead product managers, people who are seasoned. So it's a very, very good mixture of people that I see here. Quite a few number of people that I see are probably getting into this role. So I think feel free to challenge our very first panelist because this panelist includes, this is a leadership panel. A lot of the panelists that we have today are seasoned people, and they will be able to ask a lot of your tough questions. So maybe if I can request all our panelists to please grace the dais. Yogesh, Aman, Manoj will be joining us in some time. Sanjeev, Sai is going to be moderating the session, and Pinkesh, if you can please have a seat. Okay, so let me quickly give a brief introduction about each of our panelists. And if I can request each one to just wave the hand. The first one is Yogesh Akolkar. Yogesh is a product engineering leader with about 25 years of experience in and building products in small and large enterprises. He's served in many organizations, namely Compaq, Ericsson, Alcatel, EXFO, and Quality Kiosks. He is currently serving as the managing director for Resilink, and India operations has a team of about 250 people with a mixture of product managers, marketing, customer success, product support, HR, so on and so forth. So please give a big round of applause to Yogesh. Our next speaker is Aman Roy. He has over 30 years of experience in research and development, building products from scratch, has worked in organizations India and overseas. He is currently leading the GTC, or the Global Technology Center with NICE India, which is about 30% of the overall workforce of NICE and about 40% of the research and development wing. So please give a hand for Manoj will be joining us in some time. He just is on the way. But our next speaker is Sanjeev Jahagirdar. He is the managing director of Index Engines. Has about 30 years of experience across operating systems, storage, cloud, security. So all of you who are in that industry, please feel free to ask him questions as to how it is evolving. He also has technical expertise includes security, cloud storage platforms, storage, Unix internals, and networks technologies. So please give a big round of applause to Sanjeev. We've also had an addition to this panel late last night, Pinkesh, who's joined us and flew all the way, taking almost about 14 hours of flight, came 2 o'clock in the morning today to Bangalore, then flew again, came back to Pune. I'm sure he's jet lagged, but he has the energy to come and really share his thoughts with us. He is the Chief Product Officer at Qualys, which is a leading cybersecurity company in Silicon Valley. He is also a product coach. He has invested in many of the early stage companies. So any one of you who is really looking to pitch in some ideas, he's your person to go and speak to it. So thank you, Pinkesh, for joining us. Big round of applause. And finally, we have Sai, who has agreed to moderate the session for us. He is one of the co-founders of Institute of Product Leadership along with Pinkesh. And he is, has served nearly a decade of experience working with Oracle, worked on cloud securities. He's also a faculty in many other management institutions. And basically, he's also started a career with Sun Microsystems and has nearly about 25 years plus of experience in this space. So thank you all, gentlemen, for taking out time on this Friday and agreeing to do this. Manoj is here as well. Great. So Manoj is able to join us. Manoj is leading the learning and development part at Persistent Systems, and he is going to bring that flavor of how leadership can evolve coming from different parts. He has over about 25 years experience working with KPIT, BirlaSoft, Siemens, and focusing on development, delivery, excellence, and quality management. So this is basically a very nice mixture of people from different aspects. And please feel free to challenge. It's a very good opportunity for all of you to question them and take it forward. Thank you once again, gentlemen, and over to you, Sai.
Okay, Chaitanya, let me try this again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kasakai people. Move front. Can you guys hear us okay? The back? Right? Are you able to see the screen, everything? Okay, super. So before we get started, I just thought we will understand who's here. I always say that, the trouble with being punctual is that there is nobody there to appreciate it. Right? So while others still stream in, we'll get started. I think, as they were saying, we have a tight agenda, packed agenda, so we'll not wait, we'll get started. So I have a couple of questions for you guys. How many of you here are aspiring product leaders? Don't hesitate, raise your hand. Don't look at your neighbor, just raise your hand. Okay, good, about 30%. Then I have to ask other question. How many of you believe that you are already a product leader? Be honest, it's okay. It's you. And I don't know why the rest of you are here. I'm hoping that you fall somewhere in between. Right? I'm sure you had many better things to do in Pune than be here. So I'm sure there is a reason for it. And if there is a reason, feel free to ask what you want to know, what's on your mind. We have a superbly qualified panelist here. I always, when they ask me to either be a panelist or a speaker or moderator, I always choose moderator for two reasons. One, I don't have to share the mic with anyone. I can get to keep it. They have to keep sharing the mic. The second one, and a more important one, is I get to pretend that I am stupid and ask them the smart questions. Right? The operative word being pretend. Right? So here are the superbly qualified folks, and I want to start this with hopefully a smart. I call this as a make me smart question. Right, so this question is to everyone, and I'll go quickly one after the other. Right. What is something that you knew you were right, but later found out you were wrong about? Right? What is something that you thought you knew, but later found out you were wrong about? And I'm sure you have to dig into years of, whatever mistakes that you've done. But just one, be crisp, let's be 1 minute. Go ahead.
The simple answer is parenting.
Parenting, okay?
It's just on a funny note, right? Because if you look at the kids, how they evolve from baby to nursery to primary school, high school, and high school to college, right? Big transformation happens. Now we all are here. I think I see an audience there. Product leaders or aspiring product leaders, right? So product is a baby. It has to evolve. So in that context, I can Sai, I don't know whether you remember or not. Sun initially their primarily competitor was SGI graphics. So they wanted to do big transformation in enterprise market. So Sun OS, I think 4.1.3C or Sun 3 series was there. And so that time they made a big transformation. That's a kind of how we call evolution or migration, how kids from high school to college, and then you prepare everything for all that stuff, right, that migration. But it never goes as per plan. So, like I see 2.x was aborted.
So, are you referring to parenting as a baby or parenting as a product?
Actually, product is a baby, right?
Okay, good. Yeah. That's the analogy I was thinking.
Product is a baby, right? And when it evolves, it goes to the next stage. And no matter what you plan, I historically have seen that again. There are a lot of surprises in the store.
That's true.
But it's very important to have that migration though, because after eventually in 2 years that major transformation settled down, and Sun had a dream run. It could penetrate in every vertical.
This time is not enough to talk about Sun. Let me tell you that. You and I, when we get together about that. So the one that you thought you knew.
It's a migration, anything, whatever you plan, even in today's context.
No matter what you plan, it will go wrong. Okay, that's a takeaway, guys. Right? By the way, in case, you have on your tables, there is a QR codes. If you have an aha moment in any of these things, feel free to share it to the people who are not here. Right?
But still that is good for the. That's how
No, I get it.
Things a little go bad, but that migration is
Absolutely. Avan?
So first, I want to admit that I'm one of those dinosaurs who was born in 1970. So I've been around for a while. Now, I started working in multinational corporations, product development setup, globally distributed in early 90s. And for 2 decades, I believed that the conception, creation, and global scaling of these products can only be led and managed from high-cost economies, right? And I think that belief has changed in a very substantial way in the last 1 decade.
Awesome.
Something that
Thank
I'm
you.
very proud of.
Yogesh?
Well, actually, I had this hypothesis probably when I joined IPL, where if you are, especially the buyer, right, if he is purchasing something of high value, right, then obviously he is going to do a lot of introspection, investigation, figuring out, what is the, what are the pros, what are the cons, etc., and then really come up with informed decision.
Yeah.
So based on that, I started my startup, which actually failed.
Okay.
And because of this insight, and the insight is that higher the stakes, right? Actually, your brain writes over your heart.
Yeah.
It's actually your emotional decision that you already take.
Yeah, and then rationalize it after.
Rationalize
You're
it
right.
through confirmation bias. So
Great.
this was the biggest learning.
Awesome.
I would call it.
People make emotional decisions and then they rationalize it to justify that decision.
Exactly.
Fundamental truth. You're right. Thank you. Manoj?
Can you have one more mic if you can? Yeah, so I always thought that I always reach on time to every event, but that was on the lighter side. Yeah, but so first of all, my apologies that I had some emergency at home and that's where I got delayed, and I can always break the traffic. But see, one thing which I always believe, and it's kind of partially right and wrong, is I always thought that once you put people into situations and challenging situations rather, they learn on their own. But I was partially wrong because I believe that to some extent it still requires a bit of mentoring, some coaching, some hand-holding. You can't just leave people on their own.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing which I actually strongly believe for many years, that just throw people in the situation, they'll figure it out, right? But it doesn't.
That's not what you
It doesn't
saw.
work that way.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Nikesh?
I'll give you a more product-specific thing that I'm actually grappling with. And so about 3 years ago, this notion was that product experience is less important to B2B versus B2C. And so as long as you keep on building amazing capabilities and features, we don't have to worry. Is one of the many things that we got wrong. And so much so that now, I don't know if you guys are following cybersecurity, which is the space I am in right now, but there's a company called Wiz, a company that has 70% less capabilities in cloud security than most other leading vendors, and has now clocked in $300-400 million of ARR, gross couple $1 billion in valuation. The last offer was Google wanted to buy Wiz at several billions of dollars, which is unheard of offer from anyone to any other company in the world. These guys are saying, no, we don't want to take Google's offer. And the number one thing that they do is B2B products, but with an amazing onboarding experience. In 5 minutes, you get your first report. Things that are so a lot of B2B companies think that product experience is the least important thing. Turns out it's the most important thing in today's world, right? So a very interesting thing we're all living right now.
Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, let's jump into today's topic. The topic is redefining product leadership in the age of disruption. So let's unpack this title a little bit, first of all, right? Let's understand what are we referring to as a disruption, and how do we define product leadership, and what is this redefinition all about, right? So here's a little bit of context before I get your perspectives. I think while we can talk about, when we say disruption, a whole bunch of things, but something that is being on top of everybody's mind, at least working professionals, is the technology advancements that have happened in the last 2 years, which have significantly disrupted pretty much everything. And it's just a beginning, right? And you could pick, if you want, a disruption could be how customer needs are changing, right? Or any macroeconomic factors. I will leave it up to you. But I thought I'll bring in this context because this is somewhere, wherever I go, especially talking to business leaders and product leaders, this is on the top of their mind, which is number one, I think what we are seeing is pretty much every industry is disrupted today, especially with generative AI, number one. Second thing is every role, every white collar job that we know is expected to change, right? Number three, new industries will emerge. Number four, new jobs will emerge, right? If you're skeptical about it, let me give you a quick analogy. 11 years ago, there was no title called social media marketing manager. There was no role called social media marketing manager, right? Today, I don't know about Pune, but I give an analogy, you take a stone and throw it in HSR layout, it will fall on one of them, right? It is that popular and so many number of people. So this whole, the technology advancements that we're talking about, and every week we are seeing new disruptions, right? So that's at least a little bit of context, and feel free to pick that or something else. Either way is fine for that. So that is the disruption part. So we'll go through three themes, if you will, right? First one is understanding that disruption and impact in your industry and how you are seeing it. Second one is evolving roles of product leadership, right? How is that changing? How is that changing? And the third and last one is leadership, talent, development, and skill, right? Each of you are business leaders. Each of you are, grooming and promoting people to senior leadership roles. So how are you looking at that? Is that okay? Did I miss anything? Do you guys want to know anything else? Okay?
Yes. Good.
If you have a question, please raise your hand, get a mic and ask. No problem. Right? The whole idea is all of us get to share. It's not just a talk. Okay, so let's get to the first part of it, which is the disruption and its impact. So if I were to ask you, Avan, in your industry, what do you see as the biggest disruption that is happening from a business perspective, from your product's business perspective especially, and what are you trying to do to kind of mitigate that or deal with it?
So really, you mentioned two things. I think have been disrupted recently in recent days. One on the side of consumer behavior, increasing shifts towards digital preferences for communication. Right? We are in the contact center business. 80% of the business is contact center, and so we have been heavily disrupted by this consumer preference, especially in Gen Zs, to sort of prefer chat and WhatsApp over calling a contact center. And then so we see 50% growth year over year.
Is that more a self-service approach you're saying?
Yeah. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay. Even when it's not self-service, even when it's agent-led, you want to communicate with the agent in an asynchronous mode of communication over a synchronous mode of communication. So that's one. The other thing, obviously, is technological disruption, and Gen AI has been a huge disruptor for us. We have a very well-set cadence where we start in April, define our strategy, define focus areas, make investment decisions. The process ends in the summer. We finished the process. ChatGPT came along, and I think for the first time in many years, we were forced to, rework our strategy in the middle of the year. So what we did that, we moved very rapidly. We sort of disinvested, in some of our products, moved people into AI, Gen AI specifically based solutions. So let me take you through a scenario, a use case in the context of a contact center. And this use case is actually operational, not fully, but there are 3 or 4 customers who are using everything that I'm going to talk about. So let's say that you call a contact center, you are talking to a customer service agent. As that communication is happening, Copilot that we provide to our customers, that's listening into the conversation, and that's prompting the agent on their screen with a response, throughout that conversation. Now, if the agent is on voice, they can make use of that response. If the agent is on a digital channel, they can actually click on that response, and that response goes straight away to the customer, right? So there we are using Gen AI capabilities.
Awesome.
we are tracking the sentiment of the customer through the call.
Yeah.
Right? Is it red? Is it amber? Is it green? Right? We are telling the agent in real time, about their own behavior, right? And if the agent can be prompted and told that, hey, you are not listening, you are not empathizing with the customer, the agent has the ability to adapt their behavior
Real-time
in real time.
detection
Real-time.
and indications.
Now, these are models that don't come from GenAI. These are, we record 25 billion calls every year. And so we have built our own models for sentiment analytics and for real-time interaction guidance.
I love the example.
Yeah, there's a supervisor who manages, let's say, about 10 agents. They're looking at their dashboard and they're looking at the customer sentiment for each of their agents. They get alerted when they see a red customer sentiment, right? Now, they are automatically presented with the summary of the conversation so far, GenAI capabilities. They are also presented a summary of all previous interactions that this particular customer has had, right? Now, they have the opportunity to barge into the conversation and take it over, or they have the opportunity to, coach the customer.
And these are the things that were not really possible before, but
they were not
able
possible
to do
before,
this.
right?
I think
so sentiment analytics, real-time interaction guidance, possible before,
but
traditional machine learning-based models, but now we are using LLMs to do summarization. At the end of the call, an agent typically spends a lot of time summarizing the call. Why did the customer call? What was the resolution? We do that automatically today.
Love that example. And from a leadership standpoint, you're saying that you're forced to become a lot more agile now to respond to these situations. It's not about 6 month strategy at Node. You need to revisit this probably.
Think about this. We set up a team in October. We launched our first GenAI product in December, and we have now launched multiple products and several releases of this product.
Awesome. So, thanks for that. Yogesh, from your industry, from your experience, what is the impact of the disruption that you have?
Yeah, I think we are in supply chain risk management and post-COVID especially. There is a spotlight on the supply chain. It's like a bandwagon, everyone wants to get on top of it, right? So, what we have seen, we are like 10-year-old organization. So we had like our own set of customers, they had their own behaviors. But what we saw after COVID, because there was so much focus, there was so much investment, a lot of people started using our platform, and the user behavior had changed. Okay, so we are at a level where we are almost refining the product market fit. Because there are so many forces that are pulling us across the direction that how do you, whatever we used to sell, whatever features that were popular, the volumes that we had.
Why do you think that the user needs or market needs have changed at this time? What triggered that kind of?
The COVID pandemic.
For you, that
because
was
there are a lot of new users that came into the system, right? There are a lot of new organizations who started investing in this niche area of supply chain risk management. As a result of that, the kind of volumes that we are dealing with are unheard of. Like what we used to deal with our set of customers was very different than what we are now. Their expectations in terms of the platform readiness are very different. So we are at a juncture where we are.
You're right. Supply chain was one of those areas which actually struggled big time during that COVID pandemic, right? Because there were bottlenecks everywhere. Things were not moving, and it took a while, for a couple of years, for things to at least come to a little normalcy. And you're saying this is representative of not just your company and your product, but of the overall industry.
It's an industry,
is what you're saying. Okay. So and what kind of approaches or strategies were you thinking? How did you go about?
So one of the things, like I said, we have to invest a lot in refining the product market fit. We have to figure out that there are several. Look, the roadmap. When you talk about a product roadmap, there are several things that can be there based on your customer feedback or something. But you have to choose what not to do. More important than what to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what the strategy that we have followed. We also have to think about wiring the organization. Product management traditionally there have been like engineering, product management, customer success, so many silos, right? But now the way industry is evolving, there is actually a lot of crisscross. So the product sphere, if you want to be product leader now, I'm sorry, I'm just stepping into the next question.
No
but product sphere is kind of growing. It is not only about how do you basically build new features, or how do you basically take the product to market? But you also have to figure out how the product is put in the engineering.
Yeah.
What are the methodologies used there? What is the tech debt, for example? Right? So
a lot more holistic approach is expected now from many organizations, right?
Yes,
I think
especially the product leaders.
Yeah, you're right. Product leaders is product managers in this country, still a lot of them are feature managers.
Yes.
And that expectation is moved up a little bit. And for product leaders, it's absolutely a must to even take a business approach, customer-centric, market-centric approach, right? Super. Any thoughts quickly if you want to share?
Yeah.
Hello.
So on the speaking about the cyber security, right? The whole security landscape is every time you see evolving. Like it started with initially firewall, then you can say the internet security or operating system or authentication security, then email security. But lately, in last few years, you see the biggest threat is directly on your data. That's ransomware. That's the one I think threat is just get into the most important thing or most precious thing sitting in the data center.
Right.
So to address on the strategy on the ransomware, right, the key thing what basically this company was founded, our company was founded, building the now if traditional security world, you think like adding your latches or keys to the door, right? 7-lever lock or 15-lever lock or 50-lever lock, right? So only time it takes more to break it, but eventually someone out there.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the different strategy or disruptive innovation, right? So now build a solution assuming it's going to get compromised.
Okay.
So once it compromised, only thing what you want to ensure
Minimize
is first thing is detect. The first whatever the ransomware attack is detect, and then whatever the last snapshot that organization has taken for the enterprise business based on their needs, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, right? Or 1 hour or 6 hours. So now you should have assurance that backup is clean.
Got it.
So through AI and everything, so this is what I think.
So you're saying the recent technological advancements are making it much more possible than before to be able to do detection, to be able to do mitigation.
Detection and giving assurance of business continuity. But at the same time, they are constantly under threat.
Got it. Right, thank you. So jump into the evolving product leader's role a little bit, right? I think a lot of people think that product leadership, of course, by the way, product leadership is not a title, right? Many of you know this. Although very creative titles in India, product leadership is still not yet a title. It's a role. And often many people define this as senior roles if you follow product management, right? A PM, senior PM, group PM, director, VP, CPO. Somehow I don't subscribe to that notion. I believe it's a much more broader definition, and I would love to get your thoughts on it, but here's how I would define it, right? Which is a product leader is any functional leader. It could be engineering, it could be marketing, it could be design, it could be sales, but all of them working in the context of the business of products. And you make collective decisions, and then you implement those decisions contextually in your functional area. So if you're not a product manager, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a product leader, right? Every senior engineering, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that.
I actually feel very passionately about it, which is why I reached out for the mic. And I'd actually like to think that product leaders are business leaders.
Yeah.
Right? And that's important to think like that because you're making day-to-day decisions in the context of the overall business, and your decisions should have very large impact on the business.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is your extent of familiarity and insights into the marketplace where your product is being sold? How well do you understand that marketplace? How well do you understand the competitive landscape? And what is your position within that landscape? How well do you understand if you are enterprise software provider like we are? What is the ecosystem of software products in the enterprise, and where your products fits into that and works with other products in that ecosystem? How well do you understand your users, and how they use your software or should use your software, right? How well do you understand the strategy of your business, And how do you incorporate that strategy in your day-to-day decision making? Right? So I fundamentally believe that whatever your title, if you are not intimately familiar
and you understand your business very
exactly,
right?
if you don't do that, then let me just say that you're probably not making great decisions about your business, right? And then the question is, irrespective of your title, are you really a product?
I think absolutely. You hit it on the nail on the head. Yes, Manoj.
So I'm not an expert in product management, but whatever that I know and how I see, we as an organization,
But you are helping people move to product leadership roles in your company.
Absolutely. So we are a product engineering company.
Yes.
Persistent Systems is a product engineering company, more than 30 years around. And the core of
just a quick check. How many of you doesn't know Persistent?
how many of you know Persistent
How many of
Systems?
you doesn't know?
I want to see more hands raised.
I would thank you. Nobody raised their hand. Otherwise, you were in the wrong room. Otherwise, right? Go.
Yeah. So we are the darling of the street. So I think one thing which I have seen, generative AI. I mean, just to kind of build a little bit on the earlier question, it is definitely affecting all of us, and especially when I look at the PDLC, right? Typically the product development life cycle. We have been constantly working in the last few quarters to define a completely new framework. We call it as a modern delivery framework, MDF, and I believe it has an impact on pretty much every phase of the life cycle of the product. So I think it's essential that product management, product owners, and so on need to not only understand all the nuts and bolts of the role, but I think they also have to embrace the disruptive technologies like generative AI, because even the whole cycle time is going to change significantly.
Yeah.
Right? Your costing will change significantly. Efficiencies are going to change significantly, and that is where I think the entire role redefinition is now happening.
Absolutely, and I'll come back to you specifically on that, on what you were thinking of, how do you build these skills with people, right? Now, a little quick question on the trends, on evolving trends in product leadership. So, Pikesh, I know there was something that you wrote recently and which kind of went viral, right? You said fusion careers, especially in concept of product leadership. Can you help elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the comments that I hear on the stage, I think are symbolic for that. But in the US, we're already seeing this title disruption for product managers, so much so that there are companies like Airbnb. I don't know if you guys saw the recent thought where they said we're going to shut down.
Brian just made the controversial
We're
statement.
going to shut down product management. This is a very prolific statement to make for a company like Airbnb. And by the way, many companies followed that narrative. I think what they really mean is that this product management, inbound versus outbound, product marketing, technical product marketing, demand generation, all these individual roles that were kind of defined for so many years are all getting disrupted, and they're all getting fused. And so in some sense, it's no longer a limiting factor for a product manager to say, I'm going to build the best product, but then somebody else will worry about customer acquisition. That product manager has to now end-to-end look through and see, am I building it correctly? But whatever I'm building, am I actually then delivering delight? And is that delight converting into demand? And is that demand converting into dollars?
Is that where you're seeing these interesting titles, CTPO, CPMO?
So, very much so. So I joined as a CPO, I became a CPMO. So you're looking at one of those fusion career guys right now. And we're seeing this in a lot more companies where the so-called CTO and CPO are fused together to become CTPO. The chief marketing officer versus a chief product officer is now kind of fused together to become a CPMO. And I'm sure other combinations are going to come, which are unheard of. But I think it goes back to...
In a way, it's kind of codifying what we just talked about. Like as a business leader, you have to think about your customers, your market, your business, your users, and everybody. Now, in a way, I codify that with some title.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think to me, the notion of this is my boundary was fine 5 years ago. 15 years ago, we didn't even have those boundaries, so it's good that we had clarification of what these roles should be doing. And in the next 5 to 10 years, we're already seeing this in the Valley, and I'm sure it's going to be coming to India very soon. So my prediction is that this whole product management title itself is going to become obsolete or irrelevant in the context of each professional now needs to go slightly to the left and slightly to the right of what we call today a product manager context.
Nice.
And that's kind of what
It's a very important takeaway. Absolutely. Thank you. So last aspect of it, we jump into Manoj, especially on leadership, talent development, and scaling. Right? How are you, as a leader in Persistent University, who's looking at future product leadership roles? What aspects are you focusing on to groom?
So I think in terms of the roles, I like that terminology, the fusion. It's even the food is fusion now, so everything is fusion. I think and that sometimes makes things unrecognizable, which is also very sad, and you don't know what you're eating. So I think rather than getting confused, I think the fundamentals will never go away. Is something that I strongly believe in. Any core engineering fundamentals are not going to go away. The way I see the disruption is affecting every leadership role is embedding some of these disruptive technologies into each of those responsibilities. And as you said, the product manager will have to go left and right, which honestly, whatever little I know from the literature, that has been the case. I think the product managers are supposed to be pretty much knowing everything of everything, right? Across the life cycle. They need to understand the technology, they need to understand.
It's also becoming more of an imperative now in the organization, as opposed to it's a nice to have. From nice to have to becomes an imperative.
So I think what we are actually constantly working on to see how we can enable our leadership programs and the leaders rather with these cutting edge technologies where they can get smarter. More than efficient, I think it is the smarter way of kind of playing those specific roles, whether it's a product manager, whether it's a delivery manager, project manager, or even an architect. So I think that's how we are actually really looking at it. And as I said, the MDF that I spoke about.
What kind of if you can tell us one skill that you believe is now amplified because of the disruption that is required for a product leader?
Yeah, so I think what I see, and which has been again age-old kind of a belief, is adaptability. Because I think it's not a choice that we have. I think everyone has to adapt whatever comes on our way rather than feeling vulnerable and threatened. And I think as sooner you embrace it, better it will be.
I think to me, this is a very important takeaway, and hopefully in this conference, when you leave in the evening today, you take that back, which is how do we become more adaptable?
Right? One other thing which I want to quote from Dr. Anand Deshpande, who is our founder, is, and many other leaders have said that, am I going to really lose, who is going to take away my job? It's not the generative AI, it is the people who will know generative AI will take away your job. So I think sooner we adapt it, it is better for us.
I want quickly.
So, did you ask me?
Yes.
Okay. So of course, we believe that trainings and learning programs create awareness, but nothing more than that, right? I think real learning happens when you have opportunities to exercise these skills on the job.
So is continuous learning more emphasized now in the organization?
So I just want to say one thing, right? I think when you're operating as a product leader from India, the chief complaint has been that we are not close to customers. We are not embedded within the markets that we serve.
Right, that's a common.
And so I want to sort of say that that's not true anymore. Right? It's not true for two reasons. I think one is that I believe a lot of ecosystem shift is happening to India. Right? So I think about our own company. Companies like TCS, Cognizant, Infosys, they are resellers of our products. Why are they in that position? Because they have developed very strong knowledge about the contact center domain or the financial crime and compliance domain.
And
they make product recommendations to customers. Right? They have developed consulting abilities. Right? They have people who can actually advise customers on how to implement a very efficient and very well compliant, for example, fraud detection capability.
There's always a way to get closer to customers.
And so that's what I'm trying to say, that because the ecosystem, I believe, has shifted quite a bit to India. You've got resellers, you have got system integrators, you have got the big consulting companies, they're all here in vast numbers. I think your learning opportunities have actually gone up. And the question is, are you leveraging that ecosystem that exists in India to gain insights that will help you create competitive advantages?
One of the recently talent person, head of talent of one company made a simple, quick comment. He said, learning for employees is no longer a benefit. It is an imperative. Right? I think many people, employees feel that I need to have this benefit. It is not a benefit anymore. Flip it around and it is a must-have. It's an imperative. Right? Otherwise, the pace at which things are moving is gone. Right? Yes.
Quickly on to add there. I think ecosystem has been touched, but just one level below ecosystem, right? Come to the root. I think there is no product is standalone today. It has to work in a heterogeneous environment. Whatever you make it, whatever, right? So I think when you think about product, we must think about our data center, where every piece is connected to each and every other component. So when as a business leader or a product leader, when we speak, when we think about all the solution together, and that is how I think that should come into the engineering. Again, going back to
I think I will connect back to what Vikesh said. It's a product experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It is not about the nitty-gritty details about who does what. At the end of it, product experience determines whether it will succeed in the market or not.
Yeah, two things. Experience in terms of the ease of use, and in the back end, it has to connect with the interoperability.
So last one, Vikesh. I want to ask you a blunt question.
I don't expect anything less.
No, you had about 40 plus product managers, 30 plus designers, and 30 plus product marketing folks in your team as a CPO. You don't have a single vice president in India. Is that by design, or is that a reflection of lack of skills? I want to be very.
Is there anybody from college, first of all, here in the room? No, so we can openly talk about it. By the way, so that did change. So 3 months ago, we promoted somebody to become the vice president in India. So finally, we have a VP level person on the team. But that's a fair observation. Even earlier, when I was heading up McAfee, we had a fairly large team, 60, 70 product managers globally. I'd say about half of them were in Bangalore, in India. But if you look at the number of people who are director and above, it's very lopsided in the US versus Canada.
It continues to be still in many organizations. So I always wondered about that.
Yeah, I think the notion of why we don't have more senior leaders here is a fairly good observation. So in fact, the other observation, I saw the research report that you guys were publishing, that there are about 500 CPOs in the country, compared to 50,000 in the US, right? And so that's also a sign of product management is fairly well established, but the senior, leadership kind of roles are missing. To me, I think it's a combination of 2-3 things, right? First is actually the skill set, since your question is more on skill set. I think that skill set of understanding the full loop, I define that loop as delight, demand, dollars. Are you building products which people are dying to buy, as opposed to nice to buy? Are you building demand capabilities in the product itself as much as possible? Now, pure SaaS, you have to do that, but even for B2B, this whole product-led growth, which is a very important buzzword, no longer a buzzword, it's a real thing. How are you as a product manager envisioning customers discovering your product, adopting it quickly, and finally buying it? And is that how you're going to generate that demand? And third is, at the end of the day, all this is great, but if there's nobody buying and continuously paying and renewing, the dollar aspect is missing, right? To me, the average product manager doesn't think about these three things end to end in India. And so now, the ability for that individual to further grow up to get to a VP, senior VP, CPO role becomes harder in the new context. There's no longer the necessity.
But I think it's essential if this country has to start building, not start, we've already started, but becoming successful in global products, products for global customers. And this aspect is going to be very important. Okay, great. Last 30 seconds each. What is advice that you would want to give anyone here? 30 seconds, if you were to give anything.
I guess
what's the future advice?
I'll just echo what I said earlier. 3 words, right? Deliver delight, generate demand, and turn that demand into dollars. So I would say the 3 Ds.
And take that as your.
Take that as a loop. To me, how you do that, whether you're a startup or a large company, doesn't matter. But if you can do that, you're absolutely in gold. You are in high demand. Everybody's going to be dying to hire you because there's just not enough people who understand all 3.
That's true. Thank you. Lokesh?
Yeah, I think what is coming out from this discussion, if I distill it, don't be a feature manager from product leadership perspective. You need to be thinking in 360 degrees, inward and outward. See how you can orchestrate people, process, technology. There is a good book I would like to cite here called Wiring the Winning Organization from, I think, Jim Keen. So please have a look at it. That's my take.
Wiring the Winning Organization.
Yes.
Just repeating for others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sanjay?
Again, just echoing what earlier we have talked about, I think it's a business leadership is key thing here. That's I think that makes the difference. And when I say the leader, the sphere of influence of that leadership, what I believe, if I can take to each and every role in that, within that purview, like whatever the role, if QA, that they should believe this is my bids are going to see the customer, not the developer's developer. If the documentation is there, they must say that this is a user manual or readme, they are going to read me first. They are going to read first. So I think the business connectivity to each role is a key thing for the success of that individual and organization.
Right. Thank you.
Just one piece of advice that I want to leave everybody with is a lot of your products are in the cloud. You have access to a wealth of data in the cloud about user behavior, about consumer behavior, about workflows that happen in businesses. I would say maximize that data and to feed back into sort of products absolutely. So maximize the use of data that you already have, right? Get the most insights from it and feed that back into your product. I think that will make you very successful.
Super. Thank you. Manoj?
So if you give me a liberty, I want to share 2 things. So see, one is the whole product management as a role and as a philosophy really excites me. And in my domain, in the learning and development domain, this is one thing which I have, and since I believe in it, I also try to preach and practice. I want every program that we design within even learning and development team and Persistent University to be treated like a product. And then the person who actually designs and owns that is my product owner. And the moment you give that individual that ownership and title, the entire perspective of running that program changes. And that has actually helped me. So that is one piece of advice. Second is I'm a big fan of design thinking philosophy. Got myself trained in IIM Ahmedabad, and I was.
You also conduct workshops.
I also do that, and I conduct it because I just want to get better at it. It's not that I like to train, but it is absolutely phenomenal as a methodology, as a philosophy, and extremely important for the product managers in my opinion, because the soul of that whole philosophy is about customer empathy.
Absolutely.
So that would be my episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You all made me smarter. I don't know about others.